At 2:17 a.m. on the Kirishi oil refinery, KNF, one of the most powerful engines of Russia's energy empire, nighttime routine held sway. Sprawled along the banks of the Volkhov River in Leningrad Oblast, this behemoth churned through 21 million tons of crude oil annually, fueling 6.6% of Russia's total refining capacity. 2 million tons of gasoline for civilian cars and Army Ural trucks, 7.1 million tons of diesel for tanks and haulers, 6.1 million tons of fuel oil for power plants, and 600,000 tons of bitumen for special roads stretching from Moscow to the front lines. The CDU-6 unit, the king of atmospheric distillation, capable of swallowing 160,000 barrels a day and outputting 40% of the complex's products, hummed steadily like a sleeping dragon. Turbines whirred, pumps chugged black gold through the Zapolyary-Saver pipelines, and 24 operators in yellow hard hats with LED flashlights wrapped up their nightly inspection, checking valves, logging sensor readings, sipping hot tea from thermoses. The air hung heavy with the scent of raw crude, sulfur, and metal, while the distant lights of Volkhov flickered in the autumn fog like ghostly lanterns in an endless industrial wasteland. None of the technicians suspected this would be the last quiet night for CDU-6, or that within an hour the plant would erupt into a blazing symbol of crisis, striking at the pockets of millions of Russians. Lines at gas stations, shortages of 95-octane fuel, protests in the provinces, and deficits crippling the special operation. Suddenly, 800 kilometers to the south, an unexpected anomaly flared on the screen of the Nebo-M long-range VHF radar station. Over 40 unidentified signals with low radar cross-sections, RCS, streaked toward the Russian border, their scattered origin stretching 700 kilometers deep, carrying a potential payload of more than 1.5 tons of high-explosive ordnance. In the Air Defense Command Center of Leningrad Oblast, where monitors flickered and the air smelled of machine-brewed coffee, sirens wailed as the data was confirmed by the 91 N6E Big Bird, a wide-area surveillance system with 600-kilometer horizontal scan. "Incoming hostiles cluster on Kirishi," whispered the duty major, his fingers flying across the keyboard. "This isn't a drill, it's a swarm." Russian generals in Moscow, accustomed to the routine of repelling aggression, activated the three-tiered integrated air defense network: S-400 Triumph for high-altitude intercepts up to 30 kilometers, Book M3 for mid-range with 9 M317M missiles, and Pantsir S-1 for low-level walls of fire. They knew their A2/AD bubble, an anti-access/area denial zone, blanketed Leningrad Oblast from the Baltic to the Volkhov, impenetrable to poor man's drones. "The systems were built for this," grunted the general, eyeing the holographic map. "Let them come. We'll crush them." The groundwork for this operation had been laid months earlier in a cramped, stuffy planning room in Kiev, where Ukrainian SSO officers unrolled satellite imagery and open-source intelligence maps across a table lit by the dim glow of laptops. The plan: over 40 drones with 20 AQ-400 Kosar as decoys, simple plywood airframes with bird-like RCS, mass-produced at $10,000 a pop, heading for Volkovsky and Tosnensky districts to distract S-400s from the core. The main force: 20 UJ-22 Air Serpent for dispersal across the oblast, with a core of 8 specially modified UJ-26 Beaver ER, extended-range variants with extra tanks, engine software optimized for 15% better thrust, and 30-kilogram warheads, penetrators for pipes, or thermobarics for control rooms. At midnight, the swarm lifted off from scattered points in Kharkiv, Sumy, and Poltava, skimming at 50 to 100 meters in total radio silence. Crossing the border near Kursk, the swarm woke. Rules changed. Time for control. Russia's air defenses snapped to life like clockwork. The 91 N6E Big Bird locked onto the scattered swarm, across hundreds of kilometers, and its algorithm prioritized the hottest cluster, the 20 Kosars barreling toward St. Petersburg and Tosno. From S-400 Grustin launchers roared 35-48 N-6E-3 missiles. The hunt was on, tracers ripping plywood targets through the night sky. For the Russians, it was flawless defense. Cheap decoys tumbling one by one, debris raining onto Volkovsky fields. "Flank clear," reported the operators. For Ukraine, it was the opening gambit. S-400s burned ammo on scrap, not the real killers. Meanwhile, the other 20 drones fanned out across Leningrad's landscapes, fields, tree lines, along the Volkhov, playing a deadly game of cat and mouse with Bukum 3s and Pantsirs. The platform unleashed a DRFM echo, duplicating and distorting, and the Russian screen went white with snow, the lock dissolving. "Contact lost!" The siren howled. Last resort. Twin to a 38 M30mm cannons, spitting 5,000 rounds per minute, hosed the sky with steel. But the Beaver had already slipped the fiery curtain, vanishing into the Volkhov mist. It was 3:45. Kinev's own perimeter, Pantsir S-1, jolted as 7 faint signals popped on screen and closed fast, catching the battery off guard during a shift change. In panic, the operator loosed 32-57 E-6 missiles, hybrid frag types, but the targets were too low, 50 meters, too fast, 200 kilometers per hour, and too close, less than 5 kilometers. The Beavers split into 2 groups in a final maneuver over the Volkhov. 4 arrowed for CDU-6, the distillation heart, where crude fractionated into streams. 1 Pantsir missile clipped the lead at 300 meters, debris splashing into the river, but that was the Russians' last consolation that night. The remaining 3 struck mercilessly. The first Beaver, packing a TBG-7V thermobaric warhead, slammed the main control block. The blast consumed oxygen in the enclosed space, birthing a massive pressure wave that hurled walls like cards in a gale. Alarms shrieked, sensors flew. Seconds later, the second pierced the main manifold. Explosions sheared joints, crude gushed and ignited from a spark. CDU-6 choked, turbines grinding to a halt with a roar. The third and fourth hit pump stations and impurity filters. 4 blasts like chain lightning ignited a blaze that NASA firms clocked as hotspots across 10 square kilometers. Governor Alexander Drozdenko, on Telegram, 7 UAVs downed over Kirishi. Fire in industrial zone contained. No casualties. But the flames devoured CDU-6, forcing the plant to 70% capacity, overloading other units. AVT-6, still recovering from September's hit, now shouldered the load alone.